Jinger Duggar Vuolo recalls how dad Jim Bob had multiple jobs he was juggling amid family's reality TV fame. Exclusive. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. For Duggar family latest news update, please subscribe the channel and press the bell icon. Much of Jinger Duggar Vuolo's upbringing was captured on her family's popular reality television series 19 Kids and Counting and its spin-off Counting On. Yet, not all aspects of their story were unveiled on screen. In her newly released book, People Pleaser: Breaking Free from the Burden of Imaginary Expectations, Jinger opened up about how the famed brood's budget was really tight when she was growing up. So much so, they were unable to dine at fast food restaurants. She even reflected on an experience at a Taco Bell, where she and her siblings were extended kindness by a family who recognized their financial situation and ordered food on their behalf. Looking back on her upbringing further, Jinger, 31, recalls her father, Jim Bob Duggar, being a hard worker. Related, Jinger Duggar Vuolo had loved ones who were very unkind when her book exposed her family's church. Exclusive. He took on so many jobs. The car business, the towing business. He would do real estate, she tells People. He tried to do all the things. He had multiple jobs he was juggling for so many years. Of course, the show was a blessing to provide for our family, but he still was working in real estate and all of those things, she continues. He worked so hard and really taught us to have a hard work ethic, too, because he wanted all of us to have skills, life skills too. Despite stressing the importance of a good work ethic to his children, Jinger notes that she and her siblings were not encouraged to go to college, which was something, I think, more so in the Bill Gothard teaching, that was maybe a lot of it wasn't spoken, but it was known that you weren't encouraged to go that route but to go more of the entrepreneur-like route. She says, referencing the minister of her former controversial church, the Institute in Basic Life Principles, IBLP. I think that with that though, their heart was always to make us realize, okay, we want you to be diligent, disciplined, hard workers, provide, she continues of her parents. Though things weren't perfect, Jinger points out that her family's lives did turn around a lot after the show. Related, Jinger Duggar Vuolo is pregnant, expecting baby number 3 with husband Jeremy Vuolo. We're super excited. Exclusive. It did provide more flexibility for us, just like a little sigh of relief, because then my dad was not having to take on as many jobs and it was like a blessing, she says. I think that, yeah, we were very grateful when that came along, and yeah, I think it changed a lot. The People Puzzler crossword is here. How quickly can you solve it? Play now. The family's time on reality television concluded in 2020 after the final season of Counting On aired. The series was cancelled in 2021 after Jinger's brother Josh Duggar was arrested and later convicted of knowingly receiving and possessing child pornographic materials. Before Josh's legal scandal emerged, Jinger says her family had considered leaving the whole TV side of things for a while just because after so many years, it just starts to be like, in a reality show, you feel like you filmed everything that could be filmed. She and her husband, Jeremy Vuolo, also wanted privacy for their children. When the show ended, it was strange. I felt like there was a bit of, and I don't even know how to say it, maybe an identity crisis, because that's all you knew. It was like, this is my job. This is what I do. This is just it, she explains. The hardest part was the crew, because they are like family. Related, Jinger Duggar Vuolo wanted to share from my own heart as she candidly details struggles with people-pleasing in new book. Exclusive. Jinger's new book, People Pleaser, contains several personal stories about her life with the goal of helping others. In it, she connects her experiences back to her people-pleasing tendencies, recognizing where it all started as she breaks down how she overcame her struggles. I wanted to be able to share from my own heart, my personal experiences of how motherhood has gone, how postpartum has been for me, and just break it down and say, okay, we don't all have these perfectly curated lives, she continues, and I think that everybody needs to see that and understand we don't need to keep up this facade of who we want people to think we are, but we need to be genuine and real. 80. Hilariously relatable memes that describe Gen X life better than words ever could. Each generation tends to think that its taste in music, art, and culture, as well as its attitudes and values, are just right, while those that came before and after them got it a tad wrong. But it's completely natural to think like that and feel nostalgic for the good old days when the world around you continues to shift and change in unpredictable ways. Everyone does it. If you want to take a trip down memory lane or see what the world looked like before, Bored Panda has collected some of the most relatable and nostalgic posts and memes about life as a member of Generation X. Scroll down to enjoy the pics, compiled from all over the internet, and don't forget to upvote the ones that you enjoyed the most. Bored Panda reached out to Glenn Gear, Ph.D., a professor of psychology at the State University of New York at New Paltz and a published author, for his thoughts on generational divides. He shed some light on how older and younger generations can find common ground despite their differences, as well as how to stay adaptable in the modern world. You'll find our full interview with Dr. Gear below. Image credits. According to Dr. Gear, people in one generation not fully understanding members of another generation is an age-old human issue. This has become especially relevant in the last several thousand years due to very fast advances in technology. I will hear members of my parents' generation talk about 45s versus LPs. Members of my kids' generation talk about Spotify and streaming, and members of my own generation talk about what a game-changer CD technology was when it first came out, the professor told Bored Panda via email. Members of different generations also often use different slang terms, he said. As an example, he noted that his son used the term booling recently, which is similar to chilling or hanging out. It's a reminder that staying up to date with slang terms is very important for communicating with others. Image credits. There is also a strong tendency for people to think that their generation is somehow comprised of more enlightened people than is true of prior generations. This also seems to be something of a constant in the human experience, Dr. Gear said, adding that finding common ground is often the key to bringing people from different generations together. Games such as any number of card games, board games, pickleball, bowling, ping pong, tennis, etc. can be both fun and bonding for people from different generations, he said. Intergenerational gatherings, as found at holidays, for example, have that same potential. For instance, this year, I played a game of backyard American football with a bunch of 20-somethings. While I may not have been the star, I think I held my own and it was definitely a bonding experience, Dr. Gear opened up to Bored Panda. We still text around photos from this epic game to this day. Image credits. The key is to facilitate open-mindedness. If people think that someone from some other generation just doesn't get it and is unwavering in this belief, intergenerational relations are likely to be strained. The good thing is that open-mindedness is one of the basic human traits that seem to have a large environmental component, meaning that one's level of open-mindedness and the ability to develop a genuine understanding of others can change based on time and experience. In other words, people can actually become more open-minded with effort and time, Dr. Gear explained. Least lucky enough to get 1 or 2 books out of each order. Image credits. According to the professor, it can definitely be a challenge to stay flexible and adaptable in the modern world. Dr. Gear revealed that he also personally finds it difficult when he has to learn a new piece of software for work, even if it is ultimately something that can make his job easier. It's a sentiment that we and most other people share. Learning new things is hard. For people from my generation, Generation X, the key is being open to the possibility that novel technologies, art, and ideas may well have merit and utility. I don't play much in the way of video games, but I used to play Atari quite a bit as a kid, he said. When my son turned me on to Fortnite and Minecraft, I have to say that I never exactly mastered these games, but I did develop a rudimentary understanding and appreciation by watching him play. As the old adage goes, minds are like parachutes, they only work when they're open. And this fact is likely key to fostering connections across generations. Image credits. Generation X includes people born in the United States between 1965 and 1980. Members of Gen X are the children of the so-called silent generation, Americans born from 1928 to 1945, and baby boomers, individuals born from 1946 to 1964, colloquially referred to as just boomers. After Gen X come Generation Y, people born from 1981 to 1996, also known as Millennials, Generation Z, Americans born from 1997 to 2012, who are known as Gen Z or, colloquially, Zoomers, and Generation Alpha, anyone born between the early 2010s and the mid-2020s. Image credits. Naturally, there are small disagreements about how to classify generations and if these classifications are even needed in the first place. For example, some researchers and online communities take a broader approach and argue that Generation X refers to anyone born between 1961 and 1981. And if you're looking at other countries besides the US, the generational timeframes will look very different. Image credits. Statista reports that around 66 million Americans are members of Gen X. In 2021, they numbered around 65.8 million people, and it's estimated that this will drop to 63.9 million in 2028. Generally, the attitude is that baby boomers and Gen X had things easy in terms of employment and being able to easily afford property, which are huge pain points for millennials, Zoomers, and older members of Gen A. The reality isn't so straightforward, though. It's far more nuanced. Image credits. CNN reports that many members of Generation X, the oldest of which are within a decade of retirement, might run out of money after exiting the labor market. As per CNN, 45% of U.S. households risk falling short financially if they retire by the age of 65, and 54% if they decide to retire at 62. The shift from defined benefit pensions to defined contribution plans left baby boomers and Gen X with less time to accumulate savings, researchers from Morningstar Center for Retirement and Policy Studies explain. According to them, there is a retirement crisis. Image credits. Nostalgia marketing is a big driver in business, no matter what generation you're from. It's a popular way to sell products, from clothes and toys to technology and food items, that were popular 2 to 3 decades ago. The BBC reports that consumers tend to spend more money on brands that evoke nostalgia that you don't have to dig through an attic. Content from the last few decades, and even before, is everywhere and so easily remixed, says the executive strategy director at Brooklyn-based branding firm Red Antler, Liz Jussel. In other words, anything and everything can become content for nostalgia products and content because it's so easily accessible these days. On the other hand, Christine Batcho, a professor at Lemoyne College in Syracuse, New York, notes that nostalgia may be less linked to timing and more related to people's feelings about the difference between the present and the past. If you feel like something's missing, you can feel nostalgic, no matter if that thing disappeared 2 months ago, 2 years ago, or 50 years ago. What generation are you a member of? What would you say perfectly defines your generation? What are your attitudes toward other gens? Do we have any members of Gen X reading this today? We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think about the posts featured here today, and tell us what you miss the most about the past.